Was he?
Did you see how well the records, I sent you that email? That was really good.
No. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for a short prayer and salute to the flag? Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our service men and women now guarding the gates of freedom. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Terry, statement of publication.
Take notice that this regular meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on this 12th day of November 2019 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Here.
Delina.
Here.
Enriquez.
Here.
Gilpatrick.
Here.
McGill.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
At this time, I move the following minutes be received and subject to correction. October 15, 2019, executive session, October 22nd, 2019, receipt of bids, and October 28th, regular and agenda and executive session.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Yes.
Delina.
Yes.
Enriquez.
Yes.
Gilpatrick.
Yes.
McGill.
Yes.
Novak.
Yes.
I'm going to read a proclamation. We have a very exciting time for the Morgan First Aid Squad. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary, and the proclamation goes as follows. Whereas the Morgan First Aid Squad was founded in 1969 to provide beneficial services to area residents and has established a foundation of success that has allowed this institution to positively impact numerous lives. Whereas on behalf of the Borough of Sayreville, we are proud to recognize the Morgan First Aid Squad as they celebrate their 50th anniversary. Throughout the past 5 decades, they have had a remarkable impact on the local community through their commitment to providing individuals with the best emergency services so that the residents of Sayreville can live, work, and participate safely in the community. We are truly grateful for the positive difference that they have made in our town. Whereas the Morgan First Aid Squad is 100% volunteer organization, and we are forever thankful for the dedication and labor of our volunteers and the sacrifices that they make in service to our community. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Sayreville do hereby offer congratulations and best wishes for a memorable celebration and many more years of continued service to the Borough of Sayreville.
I move the mayor's proclamation be approved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There's no one here from Morgan. They're having a celebration on over the weekend, and I've asked Mary to present the proclamation at the event. Okay, Terry, next item, I'm going to open up the public hearing on ordinance 475-19.
475-19, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administration 2-15.6, Criminal History Background Checks for all youth programs of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Sayreville.
At this time, I open up the public portion for ordinance 475-19. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on? Yes, ma'am, come on up. When you come to the microphone, please state your name, give your address, so that we can put it on record.
Good evening. Christina Davis, 92 Miller Avenue. in
Christina
Fairbanks.
Davis?
Correct, Davis.
Thank you.
This is regarding the criminal history background check, right? I'm just wanting to make sure I'm clear. So with the change, on the actual amendment, it states after that it's an all-encompassing, sorry, give me 1 second. I didn't realize you were gonna get to it so quickly. That it was going to be all-encompassing, not limited to the things that were already on the ordinance, as it did list a few, violations in the ordinance as it is. But it also stated that the ordinance would be, anything that would not let you be a school employee, such as a teacher, would be the things that would disqualify you. But with this new ordinance, the only concern was that it was vague, because it did say that it was open to everything, and that it would repeal anything else that it's inconsistent with in the current ordinance. So that leads me to say is that now negate
No, if I may.
everything, or?
No, if I may. The only thing that it's changing is the highlighted in bold. So it gives the, did you see that in the first paragraph?
Correct.
That's the only thing that's changing. So it's giving the mayor and council more control and power over the specific rec leagues and those individuals who are participating in the rec leagues. So
Well, this
nothing
is
else,
for-
nothing else is changing.
But this is for a list of crimes and violations contained in this section is for illustrative purposes only and should not be construed as a limitation on those criminal activities or violations that would be grounds to disqualify a person from assisting with youth-related activities within the borough. All ordinances or parts of this ordinance is inconsistent herewith or hereby repealed, and this ordinance shall take effect immediately. On the original ordinance, though, it does state that there's a particular list of,
Right, and we're not
Thanks.
changing that. We're just adding this one paragraph to allow further discretion with the mayor and council.
okay, so at what point, though, will we know what would be considered a violation and not a
Oh, sir,
violation?
you have ma'am, you have the list.
Correct.
Right? And then this paragraph gives more discretion to the mayor and council in terms of whether an individual should be allowed to participate in the league.
Okay, so if I received a summons and a ticket and pled guilty that my lawn was overgrown, and I pled guilty for that, would that now apply to this?
Again, I'm not quite sure a overgrown lawn would violate the background check. I think that it would probably have to be a little more than that.
Right. Okay, I was just trying to
So this-
figure out.
No, all this is, it just gives more discretion over the rec leagues, over the various rec leagues, and those who are coaching and participating in them.
Right, but this would be only for someone that has been convicted of a
It
violation.
allows for the mayor and council greater discretion in terms of,
Right, but in order for something to show up on your background check, you have to be convicted
there's one of the things,
of an
correct.
activity. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Tom, come on up. Please state your name and
Tom Palando, 15 Oakwood Drive. I want to commend this council, for coming up with this ordinance. 48 years of my life I've been working with children. I think this situation where this council sent letters to that organization for someone to be removed from office, and where there's a report out there that we need to step up and remove that board to look at what has transpired financially with misappropriated funds as well as missing funds. This is a disgrace to a children's organization that this happened. Yes, it's going to court, and I think that you people need to act and act now. I think a committee should be put in place to oversee soccer. I offer myself, Bill Tumbleson, and maybe a person like Joanna DeMalo to oversee this. What's going on in this organization, removing people from their position is terrible. I've never seen anything like this before. To allow this or to not to answer to this council, to this mayor and council, is a disgrace. 48 years of my life, I've never seen this. And I'm asking you people to do something and do something as of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Can I come back up? You can go back up, sure.
Again, Christina Davis, 92 Miller Avenue. Was this ordinance put in place for a specific situation, or is this, because Mr. Palando seems to think that this is a specific?
No, this is not specific. This applies to all organizations of the
Oh,
Borough
okay, good,
Center.
because
So
that came across as if it was
yeah,
specific
no,
to a specific organization.
all organizations.
Also, in regards to background checks, and I'm sure that Mr. Palando is also aware of this, that in order for something to come up on your background check, a mere accusation or a mere rumor isn't substantial enough to face that.
We're not dealing with the specifics. We're just dealing with an opportunity to enhance the background checks for the protection of the kids.
Right, but once a background check comes up as something that deems being disqualified, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So anything before that, up until, doesn't apply to this ordinance.
Again, the applicability of this ordinance to a specific situation, I'm not at liberty to say or willing to say.
Okay.
This ordinance is specifically to give greater discretion for the mayor and council to ensure the protection of the kids.
Right, but after the judicial process has been followed, and
Right,
there's a conviction in place.
there's a process associated with this ordinance.
Perfect, wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Hold on, I just would like to say that's where the second ordinance is gonna come in, what she was referring to, the 476-19.
Just talking about
We're only
475.
doing one at a time.
Right.
If there's no other comments, I'd like to entertain a motion. Councilman Enriquez?
I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilperson Enriquez?
Yes.
Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Next item, Terry?
Yes.
Public hearing on ordinance number 476-19, an ordinance amending Chapter 17 municipally sponsored athletic organizations, 17-8 membership of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville.
This time I'm going to open up the public portion to ordinance 476-19. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Yes, ma'am?
Christina Davis, 19 Miller Avenue. After consulting with a few different attorneys and reviewing the changes to these ordinance, it was described to me as being very vague and not really, because it mentions a code of conduct, doesn't actually explain what code of conduct are we referring to? Because it says the words conduct unbecoming, at what point do we identify what conduct is considered unbecoming? So for different people, that can be different things. If I am highly religious and I don't believe in divorce, getting a divorce is distasteful or unattractive or unbecoming. As well as if I chose to volunteer for an organization that is considered a controversial organization as an active member, not me per se, but just saying in general, that can be considered unbecoming. So because this is very vague, I don't see how something like this can be held to a standard for all organizations, including yourselves, if there isn't anything to stand behind to say, well, this specific behavior is considered outside of the code of conduct. So by passing this or even allowing this to be in the ordinance without actual guidelines per se as to what would be considered unbecoming, it leaves it up for interpretation. And according to the Supreme Court in 2014, they did state that ordinances should be true to the face and without interpretation. And this ordinance honestly leaves up for interpretation, whether it's the current council or the council that's coming in.
I'll answer that one, and you can lead me astray if I'm leading astray. I was involved with the Saraville AA many years ago, and they had that in their bylaws, and it was great to have. You can't list every little thing or any item that could be construed as conduct unbecoming because you don't know what it is until it happens. So that's why it's left open to conduct unbecoming. And in that organization, they had it in their bylaws so that the board would make a determination themselves on if the conduct was unbecoming. I don't know if every organization has that, but when our borough funds are being expended to the organizations. We want to protect the overall goal, which is the children.
Right.
So that's why we're putting this in there, to make sure that the children are protected. And if there's something that comes up there's going to be hearing about in front of the governing body, then that can be determined if it's conduct unbecoming or not. It's something it's undefined because we can't define every instance.
Correct, but that leaves it open for interpretation. So in the military, for instance, where conduct unbecoming is actually originated from, if you have one too many drinks at the bar, that's conduct unbecoming. So by leaving an ordinance for the town to be able to enforce whether or not you go to a family party and have one too many drinks, or you're doing something that involves the welfare of children, those are two very different things. So leaving that open for someone to interpret whichever way the wind is blowing that day, or whichever members are on the council at that time, isn't appropriate. For instance, if you had a lesbian board, executive board member, or a gay board member, and there were a few people on the board or whoever at either the organization or at the borough that thought that was not becoming or that was threatening to the nature of the children, especially now with transgender, there are some states that are trying to find transgender people as imposing on the mental health of children, which would be welfare of children. So at what point do you cross the line and say, we're going to leave this to be factual and things that they can prove, and leave things to an independent organization? Because even though that you are giving money to certain sports organizations, not all that money is equal. And I'm not sure how much goes to other places, because I can only speak to one that I'm familiar with. However, these organizations are independent 501c3 organizations. So I don't see how the board can impose on a private nonprofit what they feel is conduct unbecoming.
Or if I may, I have no reason to object to this ordinance. Many other towns have this specific ordinance. It is for the betterment of all athletic organizations within the borough, but more importantly for the benefit and protection of our kids. Every organization typically has a code of conduct, and contained in with the code of conduct, and we are just memorializing with respect to our ordinances. I understand the need for specificity, but I think in this particular ordinance, this has all the necessary ingredients to allow this ordinance to pass, but at the same time provides language that gives somewhat parameters as to what the borough of Sayreville can do.
Right, but it leaves it up for interpretation.
Again, all laws are subject to interpretation, right? It's not black and white. So
But they
there
should be.
Again, all laws, you expect it to be, but again, that's why they have appellate courts, that's why they have superior courts, and that's why they have the opportunity for appeal. But I think here in this particular ordinance, it is just saying that, hey, listen, we expect all organizations to have a code of conduct and not to engage in any conduct that is unbecoming or detrimental to the league or the borough. I mean, I don't.
Right, so we do have, in my organization specifically, we do have code of conduct standards built in for the coaches and for the
And I bet your
volunteers.
code of conduct has this language in it.
Actually has language that you will not curse or have any provocative behavior in front of the children, that you will not smoke on the premises in
What
front of children, that
organization
you're Sayreville Soccer Club.
Okay.
That you will have, no smoking on the premises, that you're an active role model, that you will not behave in unsportsmanlike behavior, because that's the role of the club in general, is to provide 450 plus kids a place to play soccer within our town, as every other town does. And the club is successful enough to bring in other children from other places that want to play here and stay here.
Remember,
And there is a code of conduct
the goal of
built
this
into there.
ordinance is really to ensure that all of the athletic organizations are being good sportsmen, but more importantly, protecting our kids and exhibiting conduct that leads to their growth and also to their leadership qualities. And I think that this code of conduct puts expectations on all of the athletic organizations to set a good example.
Right.
And I don't have any objection to this.
Okay, I feel, and as well as two other attorneys feel, that this ordinance is up for interpretation in regards to what the code of conduct is actually considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Councilman Enriquez.
I move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Enriquez?
Yes.
Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
All right, next item, Terry.
Under new business, we have the introduction of the following ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Animal Control of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to add Section 9-3.9, banning the sale of dogs and cats from pet shops associated with puppy and kitten mills.
Thank you. I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing to be held on November 25th, 2019.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilperson Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina?
Yes.
Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance number 478-19, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 5 of the Revised General Ordinance of the Borough of Saraville, amending Section 5-5.6 A and B, political signs.
Before we go on, I'd spoken to our attorney, and I don't know if it's a substantial change, but the time of midnight, I'm just asking, just for more clarity, if we could just make it 11:59 PM on Saturday?
Good,
Otherwise,
because it would
it's
be
the Friday night
Sunday.
before.
I have no objection to that one.
It's not substantial, right?
No.
So at this point, I'm going to ask that we change the language to 11:59 PM rather than 12, to midnight, just for more clarity. And I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing to be held on November 25th, 2019.
Second.
We got Councilwoman Kilpatrick, Councilpersons Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina? Yes. Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Next item?
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance 479-19, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 7 of the Revised General Ordinance of the Borough of Saraville to amend Section 7-3.3, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets.
I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing to be held on November 25th, 2019.
Second.
Again, Councilwoman Kilpatrick, second.
Yes.
Councilperson Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina? Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
Going to open up the public portion on consent agenda resolutions. Does anyone wish to speak on the consent agenda items only? If not, I move the public portion be closed and the resolutions be approved on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilperson Buchanan?
Yes.
Delina? Enriquez?
Yes.
Kilpatrick?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Novak?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open up the public portion for any and all comments at all. Does anyone, yes ma'am, come on up. Please state your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Amy Cohen. I live in Fanwood, New Jersey, 24 McLennan Place.
You live where, ma'am?
Fanwood
Fanwood.
in Union County. My husband Larry is a volunteer legislator for the Humane Society of New Jersey, and unfortunately, he was committed to speak in another town. So I'm here to read a statement that he prepared. So if you will excuse me from looking down at my notes, I'd appreciate it. First of all, he'd like to thank you for joining the 139 towns in New Jersey, along with hundreds of more in 2 states around the country, in saying that this broken business model where profits come at the expense of tortured and dead animals has no place in Saraville. With this ordinance that you're bringing up, you welcome to your town any store dealing with pet supplies and services, including Petco, PetSmart, and 24 of the largest 25 pet store chains in the country, which already refuse to sell dogs and cats because they know that supply chain is polluted with inhumane puppy mills. Only Petland, among the big chains, sells dogs and cats, and they have no stores in New Jersey. If you Google Petland and the word animal cruelty, you will be appalled at the results that you get. You would also be appalled at the history of some of the pet store owners you will no doubt hear from who oppose this ordinance. The Coalition of Responsible Pet Store Owners could not be more ironically misnamed. It is led by a pet store owner in Union County with 3 defining accomplishments. 1, he was fined $25,000 by Consumer Affairs for violating state law. 2, he has a history as one of the worst offenders in the use of breeders with severe violations of the Animal Welfare Act, which is also in violation of the New Jersey law. And 3, he runs a rescue which was found to have received laundered puppies from a fake broker in Iowa who is being investigated by that state's Attorney General. When you hear from these people, please do not be fooled by how they misrepresent the state law. A state provision that exposed their use of some of the worst breeders out there has been rendered enforceable by the federal government, which 2 years ago cut off public access to the website, which contained inspection reports of the breeders the stores reported using, and which is essential in enforcing New Jersey law. The stores have been operating in the dark since 2017 and now brag about their breeders only because no one can see their inspection reports anymore. But when we could see those inspection reports, they painted an ugly picture, exactly the opposite of what they say now. Likewise, when the store owners make the nonsensical argument that banning their well-regulated stores will unleash a flood upon your town of dangerous mutts from corrupt rescues and shelters, step back and consider how offensive it is to equate their for-profit business model based on the forced breeding of dogs in horrendous conditions to be sold at prices commonly reaching between $3,000 to $4,000, to the rescue and shelter model, which uses volunteers and minimum wage workers to save dogs' lives and charges adoption fees in the low hundreds of dollars, usually not even enough to cover the cost of care and rehabilitation of animals. You have one such exemplary rescue, Sammy's Hope, which is operating in your town. Your pride in what Sammy's Hope does would be replaced by disgust if you had to deal with a store like Just Pups, which was forcibly closed in 4 towns, including East Brunswick in this county, which cost the town of East Hanover, and another store in East Hanover, which cost the town $90,000 in taxpayer money in the process of closing it. This is not about where a person can get their dog, because most people do not know what you know about pet stores. Every dog deserves to be loved by their owner, no matter what their background. But no dog deserves the fate of those that are left in the puppy mills, churning out litter after litter under horrific, loveless conditions, only to be discarded or killed when their breeder deems them no longer useful. This is what makes this ordinance the one against animal cruelty, and one which we hope Sayreville will be very proud to adopt. I have information packets for each council member if you would like them.
Thank you. If you could just hand it to the clerk.
Thank you, Chair.
You hand
And
it
if
to
you
the
have
clerk.
any questions, my husband's name and number and email address.
Thank you very
Each
much.
one of them.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir?
Arthur Rittenhouse, 33 Delacat Lane, Sayreville, New Jersey. As you know, I've been up here before regarding the Fulton's Landing property and possible contamination that was on that property. At one meeting, I spoke about when I knew there were certain violations, and somebody said I was probably just a hole in the fence. Well, for the past 2 years, I've been trying to get the council to check the soil that's on that property. I've been threatened by the developer receiving a letter to cease and desist. I had to go out and get an attorney to stop that because of me speaking at these public meetings. Notice of violation. This is from the State Department of Environmental Protection through an OPRA request. PEA 19001-U3011. Lack of a permit, storage of soil that's mixed with discarded asphalt, which is a violation. In addition, a review of the analytical results received by the department for imported soils at these properties reveal that the soils have exceeded a hazardous contaminant of New Jersey residential direct contact soil remediation standards and or the New Jersey non-residential direct contact soil remediation standards, specifically benzo, parentheses A, pyrene, with an NJRDCRS limit of 0.5 milligrams was detected at 0.65 milligrams by accredited and analytical resources lab, reports dated 9/25/17 and 10/10/17. I had mentioned in one of my presentations to you those 2 dates, and that the company where they came from indicated they were higher than the levels, yet the developer still allowed it to be put there. Now, it's been there for 2 years, could be draining down into the water supply, could be draining into over 600 homes, and this council has done nothing to to prevent that. Just to give you an idea of what benzoapiline is listed as a hazardous substance under the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liberty Act of 1980, is found at 524 hazardous waste sites in the country and is ranked number 8 of 275 chemicals on the priority list of hazardous substances. So we have number 8 hazardous substance, carcinogen, on that property, and this council, at the urging of me and other people, has not done a thing to do it. You have not checked the permits, which are lacking, and you do have the right to go on that property. You have every right to do that, but instead you chose to put the lives of your residents in danger because of this, and you were fully aware of this. Hopefully the council will do something and not wait till Sierra gets a hold of it, because they're not going to do anything until it gets there either. So hopefully you have the power, you have the right to do it, and I would expect you to do something for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Mike Diadio, and I'm the chairman of SARA. I don't know what report Mr. Rittenhouse is referencing or the date of it, but Mr. Dupont, I know you're in receipt of a report and testing that was done this year, which gave it a clean bill of health and brought it up to non-residential standards so we could build on it. That aside, I've said to this council numerous times, as well as Mr. Rittenhouse, SARA will have the land tested. I expect it to come before SARA as soon as maybe next month or January. Nothing's going to be built on it, and if there is anything contaminated on there, just like there was at Riverton, it will be removed. Not aware of any asphalt on there. He's saying, I heard a lot of could be, could be, could be. Nothing definite, no facts. The fact is, if it is contaminated, which I don't believe it is, because I've read the report from Brinkerhoff that said it isn't, we will do our own independent testing, and if there is anything there, it will be cleaned before any building's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir, come on.
Just to clarify, Art Rittenhouse, 33 Delacat Lane, Saraville, New Jersey. This report is October 7th, 2019. They had 30 days to prepare a report on how to clean it up. This is not fact, this is not guessing, this is fact. This is the report from the Department of Environmental Protection. So this report is there, I gave you the number, you can look it up, unless, Mike, you want me to do your job again for you and give it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Darrell?
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good. I come before you,
Please state your name.
Darrell Hartsfield, 104 Saraville Boulevard. I come before you on behalf of the Rent Leveling Board. The other day, we received in our mailbox, a notice that the ordinance had been changed. Yet we had not been informed of anything of the change being made, so they've asked me, what is the purpose of the board if we're not notified or in conversation? In March, I believe in March of this year, we met with our attorney who was appointed to the board, who said he was in consultation with the attorney of the borough. In May, his associate came to the meeting and said that they would be back in touch with us based on some recommendations that were coming from the borough attorney and council. We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything until we received this in the mailbox. And tonight we had a meeting. Unfortunately, we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't have the meeting. But the question was still asked, what's the purpose of the Rent Leveling Board? If ordinances are passed, we don't know anything about it, we wasn't consulted about it, we are not involved in it, and then we're asked to implement this change. Thank you.
If I might, I spoke to Mr. Nolan regarding this. He had indicated that the Rent Leveling Board was in support of the changes. You know, we had been advised that the Rent Leveling Board had been advised of the changes that were recommended by the attorney for the Rent Leveling Board.
I said correct. So that was what you advised, that's incorrect. We haven't spoken to Mr. Nolan since, I think, like I said, March or April. And in May, his associate came to the meeting, said that they were in consultation, they would get back to us in 2 weeks. We have heard anything since then.
Right. You know what, I'll reach out to Mr. Nolan tomorrow to follow up and ask him why this occurred, and then I'll get back to the borough administrator.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
Can I just ask one thing in reference to that, Mr. Dupont?
Is there a motion to,
I move the public portion be closed.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
If you wouldn't mind, Mike, can you also, Darrell, I don't know if you had a chance to discuss the ordinance with the rent leveling board, but as he reaches out to the attorney, could you maybe put in writing anything that the board is opposed to or uncomfortable with in reference to the ordinance? So that way he'll have that information when he has the discussion, and we don't have to come back here to go back to you. It will just,
If I can be clear, I don't know that the board is against what was said. I mean, we just have had no conversation with anyone to know that this is what, we were just being told that there was some consultation going on, and then a recommendation would come back to us.
okay.
Until we received this ordinance, we didn't know anything.
So clearly you didn't have a meeting today. I don't know when your next meeting is going to be, but at the very least, make sure that the members of the rent leveling board have that ordinance. They can review it, look at it, and see if there's any objections to it, so he can bring that forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? We good to start?
Here.
I call the next meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terry, statement of publication.
Take notice that this agenda session meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on this 12th day of November 2019 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Here.
Delina. Enriquez. Kilpatrick. McGill. Novak.
I'm going to go through the ordinances real quick. If anyone has an objection, the ones we just went over in introduction, 477-19, 478-19, 479-19. Committee reports, Councilman McGill, Administration and Finance.
Thank you. Minutes and reports, none. Applications received for bingo raffle licenses from the following organizations. PTO Project Before to conduct on-premise 50/50 on-premise draw tricky tray on December 6, 2019, March 5th, 2020, and June 5th, 2020 on 295 Ernsten Road. Paul Inn, RA 2304 and 2305. Number 2, Sayville Senior Citizen Thursday Club Incorporated to conduct on-premises 50/50 on 12 various dates in 2020, RA 2306 and 2307. Number 3, Animal Rescue Force to conduct an off-premise 50/50 on May 23rd, 2020 at the Sayville Animal Hospital, RA 2308. Number 4, St. Stan's Cosca Church to conduct 48 bingo games in 2020, BA 537. And number 5, St. Stan's Cosca HSA to conduct 42 bingo games in 2020, BA 538. Approve or deny license renewal applications for 2020 covering barber shops, motels, temporary trailers, and junkyards.
Any issues? Next item.
No, on D, notice of public hearing received from the following. Number 1, PSE&G for approval of changes to, in its electric tax adjustment credit and gas tax adjustment credit. Receive and file. Other than that, progress.
Thank you. Councilman Delina, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no minutes or departmental reports. B, notice of adjacent municipality property owner notice of an application before the Spotswood Borough Planning Board. On November 12th, from David Stromwasser, 30 Spruce Street, Lot 1 approval for addition encroachment. Notice of application for freshwater wetlands General Permit 6 for filing of .931 acres of isolated wetlands associated with the development of a residential housing project filed with the DEP. Receive and file.
Second.
Request for release of escrow fees covering the application of Ott Daniels minor subdivision on bulk variance approval. I'm going to refer that to Jay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Progress.
Thank you. Councilwoman Novak, Public Works?
Yes, no departmental reports. There's been a request from Apex Construction for a refund of this road opening permit fee. I'm assuming that's 211 Johnson Lane, which I have a report from Public Works that said the road is in good repair. So I don't have any problem if anybody else does.
Next item.
Other than that, progress.
Thank you. Councilman Enriquez, Recreation.
There are no minutes of departmental reports. We just want to make an announcement of, on December 8th, at 6 o'clock, we have the annual Parade of Lights from Metuchen Avenue to Borough Hall. Arrival time is 5:30. We also have the Recreation Department's annual toy drive beginning November 2nd and continue to December 6th. You could drop off any unwrapped toys at between 8 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. Also, I would like to address the two ordinances that got passed today. I do understand this is mainly concerning the soccer club, and everything that's been going on there with quite a few incidents going on. I don't really want to get into specifics on anything. Parents had asked the council and certain individuals to have a meeting with them. We had over 30-plus parents come voicing concerns about things going on there, things they felt that are unfair, and issues that, with discussions with the rec director and myself, we find a little disturbing.
About a specific organization. I think it's real important that, the mayor and council adopted an ordinance that applies to all of the
Yes.
athletic organizations. It's really important that, the public knows that this mayor and council have taken steps to ensure the protection of the kids, but at the same time, installing a code of conduct that I think needs to ensure the expectations of the mayor and council. It also leads to an example for our kids, or for all the kids that are participating in it. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that we're not talking about a specific organization.
Okay. So reiterate, what I like to do is form a committee to look at a certain organization within our town and have the bylaws looked at. I've discussed it with the rec director. He's in full agreement. He would like to oversee a committee to overlook what has been going on in that organization and possibly removal of the executive board. That's just about it. I'd like the council's support on this.
Are you gonna form the committee?
Yes, it would be myself and the rec director, Jerry Ust, would be taking part in it. What we were looking to do is form prior presidents of not just one organization, of multiple organizations, to see, if things are on the up and up, if things are okay there, and if they deem it's not, the council would like to take charge and put these concerns to rest with the parents.
Damon, my recommendation would be to have a subcommittee meeting of your your recreation committee on the council.
Okay.
And we can work out more details there.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's progress.
Thank you. Water and Sewer, Councilwoman Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no minutes or departmental reports at this time. When it comes to committee reports, I just have an issue that I would like to bring up that was brought to my attention, and it is regarding a safety concern. I'm going to ask if the council is okay to ask Mr. Frankel to reach out to our police department. One of the things that's been occurring within our parks, some of the areas at night, Obviously, it's getting darker out now earlier. Some of the areas, like our bathroom facilities and so forth, are starting to get vandalized and damaged. It appears to be happening at a window of time as it's getting dark out. We have a buildings and grounds individual that goes around at night to make sure that those areas are locked and secured. If you wouldn't mind reaching out to the police, if the council is okay with that. I want to make sure that, number one, our employee is safe, and number two, that there's no issues going on as that one individual is going in there and checking things. So does anybody have an objection to Dan Frankel reaching out to police officers, seeing if we could accompany maybe our buildings and grounds person, at least on that night patrol, to make sure everything's okay?
It appears that they're also having a tendency now of flipping porta-johns.
Yes.
They're ending up on their tops, they're ending up on their sides, they're ending up 50 feet from where they were.
Yes.
A resident in Morgan actually asked me, because I know the rec complex, we close from dusk till dawn, and the last person who has the permit there closes the gate and locks the gate, and the first person in the morning comes by and reopens it. They asked if they could do the same over in Woodland Park, because they're going down there doing all different things throughout the hours. So if we can have the Parks Department look at reclosing that gate from dusk till dawn, or whoever has the permit at that time, making sure that the gate is closed. But yeah, there's a new trend going, and it needs to, it needs to stop.
We need increased security as it is. I think moving forward, we as a council are going to need to look at things like cameras and other ways to securing that area. But I think the increased patrols for now to start would be important. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Anything else?
That will be all progress. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is the Business Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Review and approval of 2020 council meeting schedule. Is everybody okay with it? Okay. That's what here.
Your mic might not be on, Mayor.
Sorry, that we have a little bit more time to discuss that, because we have talked over the years about changing that.
When do you need to know for
Well-
advertising purposes, Terry?
By the next meeting? Oh, okay, well, we'll have it by the next meeting. The next meeting, the last meeting.
Next item?
Thank you.
Authorization to execute interlocal services contract with the County of Middlesex for senior citizens transportation services for a 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2020.
Any objections? Next item?
Municipal Clerks Association of Jersey requests supporting resolution appealing to the legislature to form a commission comprised of mayors, municipal clerks, municipal managers, attorneys, police chiefs, open government advocates, privacy experts, members of the media, citizens, and other appropriate stakeholders to review and examine the effects of Oprah on local government and the needs to be fulfilled by the law and the use of the commission's findings to perform a comprehensive reform of Oprah.
Any objections? Next item?
Authorization of intent for in-kind contribution to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in an amount not to exceed $17,000, provided that the grant is awarded.
Any objections? Next item?
Authorization to appoint Jessica Morales as municipal clerk effective January 1st, 2020.
Any objections?
Authorization to appoint Jean Marie O'Leary for clerk from permanent part-time to clerk full-time effective January 1st, 2020.
Any objections?
Authorization to transfer funds from the evidence trust account to complete the construction of the Saraville Police Department firing range project.
Any objections?
That's it, Mayor.
Maybe we're gonna have 2 clerks on January 1? Terry? CFO Denise,
Yes, authorization to budget transfer resolution and authorization to cancel old outstanding bond ordinances.
okay, thank you. And Jay?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items. First, the Veterans Field and Saraville Recreation Complex turf field projects. That work's been completed. We're recommending the projects be closed out, and there's going to be a change order that reduces the original project amount. Like a resolution for that at the next meeting. Second item is the improvements to Algar Avenue project. We were authorized a few months ago to negotiate a contract. We had bid it a couple times. The prices exceeded the budget. We were able to negotiate. We had a reduction of approximately $30,000 from the low bid price. We spoke with the purchasing agent. There is approximately $150,000 in community block grant money that can go toward the project, so there is funding in place. So we'd like a resolution awarding that contract for the negotiated price.
Any objections?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. I do have one thing for the borough attorney. We all received a letter on the desk today. I'm going to ask that he review it and forward it to Becky if necessary to proceed. Okay. Anything else under your report?
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Anything for executive?
No, sir.
At this time, we're going to open the public portion for any and all comments. Does anyone have anything to say? Yes, come on up.
Christina Davis, 92 Miller Avenue. This is just for clarification for what Mr. Enriquez just mentioned. So this committee that you're planning on forming, or subcommittee, however you guys see fit to do this, I'm assuming you're going to look at all 5 youth sports organizations, not just one specific one? Okay. Secondly, just so that everyone's aware, and so this is on the record, it took the current executive board of the youth sports organization that you were referring to 9 days to find and remove the person responsible for misappropriation of funds. And that information was sent directly to the rec director, Jerry Us, right away, sent to the Sayreville Police Department, and is now under the purview of the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. And that's an ongoing legal matter that's being taken care of. So if you, as the Borough Council, were just made aware of the situation, that doesn't fall down on the youth sports organization itself, because the borough and its appropriate person to made aware of was made aware. And we were told in so many words that to keep this quiet because it doesn't look good. So perhaps that you need to look at your internal processes to see what the appropriate route of information needs to go, because we followed our matter and it took us 9 days to do that.
I can just tell you from experience that anything under criminal investigation with the county prosecutor's office, this council usually are not made aware of because they don't want us to know what's going on with their investigations. It's not until afterwards that it comes to the councils. So that's...
Well, not from the police department, but we notified the recreation board that there was an issue and that we were pursuing it with a forensic investigator and we were pursuing with the Sayreville Police Department. So if you just found this out in August or September, that is of no fault of ours because we followed our chain of command. And I just want to make sure that it's clear that if you're going to do this audit, that it's done for every single one, because otherwise it feels like a little bit of a witch hunt and discrimination trying to figure out one, because I do know the parents that were present at that meeting after the fact, and they were parents from a outside of Sayreville soccer club that is attempting to get field permits during the time that Sayreville Soccer Club has their permits. And they've been trying to get permits and get field space when Sayreville Soccer Club has those rights for the past 1.5 years. So at this point, now they're trying to take permits away and do anything they can to come into that spot. That's all I have to say. I just want to make sure that you guys are aware.
I just want to address, Sayreville will always have precedence on our fields.
Right.
Over any
Which is what
outside
they were told.
organization.
Correct.
So
Right,
that
which is
is
what
not
they
a
were told.
concern.
But the meeting, the reason why they had requested that meeting was to see if they can request that they can have those permit times. And they were told exactly what you said, that Sayreville will have precedence. However, that family, that group of people that had this concern and brought up all this controversy were from an outside club, outside of Sayreville. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Yes, sir, come on up. You state your name and address for the record.
Steve Malineski, 28 Scarlet Drive. I just want to applaud the council for taking action to protect our children. I mean, that's more important to me than anything else. I mean, I've had children go through the system. I have a grandson who's in the system. And I think that, above all, we trust you to make good judgment and good calls to protect our children above anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion. All in favor? Aye. Before we go into that, I just want to make a quick comment. The ordinances that we have on hand regarding several sports organizations and what are getting addressed in these ordinances are for several organizations that have preference here in town. It's for the kids in our town. It's to protect our children. I started coaching when I was 21 years old. I'm now 44, so I have 23 years of experience in organizations, and I have found that the adults are the ones that get in the way of the children wanting to play. And that's what our main goal is here, to protect those children in any organization. And as far as the permitting, again, one of the benefits of being a recognized Sayreville sports organization is having first priority to any permit, and that you can't lose that permit because of another organization coming in from outside. So we want to protect our children. That's what we're up here for, and that's what we're doing with these ordinances. So with that, I'm going to entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you.